he'd invite me to go start doing stuff. So I feel like after my divorce or separation, I just became a yes girl, is what I would say.
I love that.
What happened is, and I've always been a yes girl. I'm the type of person where I'll let you down, if anything, because unfortunately I'll double book myself or something happens like that. And I hate it, but I always am like, yep, I'll figure it out. I'll make it work. With parties, with everything in my business, like someone would be like, hey, I want to host a party this time. I'm like, I have kids. My husband works 45 minutes away, 12-hour shifts. How am I going to figure this out? Like, and I'd be like, yes. And then I'd figure it out afterwards. Like,
oh my gosh, I'm the same way.
Yeah.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. This is Confessions from the Outside. This is a podcast where we talk about everything motherhood, womanhood, especially after divorce. And today, our show, we're going to focus on finding yourself after divorce. And I have one of my best friends on today. This is Brittany Hunter, and her business is called Become. She does retreats for women to help them find themselves. And she's kind of just a big badass. That's kind of just the best adjective for you.
I'll take it.
She is. She's, it's funny because I sent her this TikTok one day and it was, the life of an extroverted extrovert. So the guy on it was showing, or he would wake up and he'd call all of his friends. It's like, what's the haps? What's happening today? What's the party? Where are we going? What's the plan? You know,
Brittany, you wake up like that. Yes.
Yeah. Brittany is very much high energy. Yes. And her energy, just everything about you is infectious. I love it.
Thank you. I love people. That's what I love.
Yes. I met Brittany initially when I gave her a massage. That's how I met you, right?
Facebook.
Oh yeah, Facebook.
I pimped you out on Facebook. I was like, what is this massage you're doing in this man's armpit? I need it.
I know, right?
That's when I was doing Ironmans back then. Yeah. Half Ironmans.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And then I met you and we were just talking during the massage and I'm like, damn, we really vibe.
Mm-hmm. We did. We vibed right off the bat. It was awesome.
Right.
Yes.
Brittany was also, side fact, the first rep for LuLaRoe, which is a clothing company. You know, it's a direct sales company. And
you've seen me on Amazon, maybe.
She was on the show. Don't go watch it.
That's fine. It's whatever. Everybody has an opinion, right? Here we are talking about it. It's perfect, right?
Yeah. But I think it's so badass because you've got to go to all of the things. So you've listened to Brene Brown. You've listened to all of
Rachel Hollis.
Yeah.
And so many. Yeah.
Damn.
Simon Sinek came and Brendan Burchard. And they have brought in some incredible humans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just the training that you've had, you just really are so inspiring and motivating.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it has come from 10 years of trainings. Yeah, I would definitely say that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thanks for the shout out for that.
But today we're going to talk about, so we're both single moms. We both have multiple kids. I have 4, Brittany has 3. And it just has been kind of a shit show at points. And, we're going to talk about like the divorce part of it, because I know that there's a lot of you out there that have gone through this, that are going through this, and maybe like something that we say will help, or you can just relate. Sometimes it helps to hear someone going through the same shit as you.
Amen.
And be like validating you and just it helps you to understand that you're not
feel alone. Yep, exactly.
Yeah. So Brittany, how long have you been divorced?
Officially, or our divorce, just to lay it out there, our divorce took 13 months.
Oh.
So he left in 2020, March of 2020, and then our divorce was finalized in April of 2021. So,
oh wow.
Yeah, talk about a shit show. It was
yeah.
So much emotions. And I remember people being like, as soon as those papers are signed, as soon as this happens, like it'll be a relief. And it was for maybe a month, and then more just came. Like but it was the same way in my marriage as well. It's life. It's like the ups and downs of life. But yeah, so it's been just over a year officially, and 2 years separated.
Yeah, it seems like longer than that. That's now that you say that. Yeah. Yours was extra complicated because you guys were both partners in your business.
Yeah, we worked together. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was me being kind of the breadwinner per se. But I mean, he worked with me as well, and, watched the kids and supported me and came to events or watched the kids while I was traveling the country every month. So I'll give him definitely credit for that. He was very supportive, and he's an incredible dad.
Oh,
so
I love that.
Yeah.
And I love that you can give, it's really easy to just focus on the negative in situations. And I think you're one of the people that I've seen do this best in life, where you're like, yes, it was shitty. Like, they have these characteristics that were really hard, or, whatever we went through was really hard, but you can also see all the ways that it benefited, or like the good things about it too,
Yeah.
I love that about you.
I know where your focus goes, your energy flows, and if I'm going to focus on the negative and think about the negative, then that's what's going to keep coming to me, because that's what's highlighted in my life. But even if there's only a few good things, I feel like focusing on those things, or even, I just sent him a text a few weeks ago, and we fight back and forth. I'm not going to try and say either one of us is better than the other. It's hard. But I said, I didn't make a mistake when I married you and had kids with you. I didn't. Aww. I mean, I think he's an incredible dad, and I'm so grateful for the dad that he is. And, he just wasn't a great husband for me.
Okay, so we're talking about finding yourself after divorce, but in your divorce, there's something that was lost. Something happened. What was it for you that you felt like you lost, or what happened?
I think it was probably 12 years. I mean, I don't know how in depth I want to go, because, I want to respect him and his anonymity. And we just had some situations with addiction and things that I knew about previous to being married, and decided, we're going to work on this. Like, I believe in forgiveness. I believe in working on things. I believe in growth and change. And my dad, I grew up with an alcoholic as a father. So, and then he quit. When I was a year old, he was sober until I was 18, and it almost killed him. He had hepatitis and ended up dying from cirrhosis and everything when he started back up again, and it killed him. So I'm used to addiction. I've been through Al-Anon. I've done these things. And so that was a big part of our marriage, is, some addiction issues. And we'd go through, the 5-step program or Al-Anon for me, and just strength building. And it helped tremendously. It really did. And, we were members of the church at the time. So they had programs through the church that we were able to, again, find community and realize that we weren't alone. And that it helped. And, it kept us growing. But there was still the lying, the back of my mind, just finding deleted messages or things like that. And then I started doing it too.
Yeah.
I was like, if you're doing it, I'm doing it, and I lost part of myself there, almost as a get back, when that's not really who I was. And as my business grew and things grew, he ended up leaving his job and working with me, which I loved. It was great to have the support and, having, my kid's dad that was the one watching him. Like, of course, it was incredible. And we were making great money and everything like that. And then LuLaRoe started coming down, and we were living in Salt Lake and decided to move to St. George. And when we got here, I realized that our business had slowed down substantially. And I was like, okay, it's time to get a job. It's time to get a job. And I just started disconnecting a ton. I felt like I was more of the masculine and feminine energy in the home. And I started needing him to get a job, to start working hard. And he just kept, in a sense, relying on me a lot. And, if you go to the gym, I'll go to the gym. And I'm like, no, go to the gym. We got to have some separation of time here, because we're working from home. We're doing everything from home. But the more we were together, the more we were drifting apart, in a sense. And I just started lacking empathy for him. And we grew apart. I wanted it in my head so bad, and in my heart, I'm like, okay, we can do this. Like, I can let go. But there was like a rock that would just be on my chest when I'd be in that position. And something was wrong. Something didn't feel right. My energy, everything was completely disconnected. I don't know if he was lying. I don't know if something was going on, but it crushed me. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. For 3 months, I think we tried to be intimate maybe 2 or 3 different times. And it was, but one of the best things that I learned, we were working with a coach. I paid $6,000 for a relationship coach, and I wanted to stay married. I did not want to have another man in my kid's life. I did not at all. We went through all those things and did that for, 12 years of our marriage. I did not want to think it was over.
Yeah. At that point, I mean, okay. So I love that you're going back all the way to, you said, a couple of years into your marriage, because it sounds like, that loss, that lying that maybe was happening from your dad, right? As an alcoholic, came back, and, your extra, it extra hit you when he wasn't honest with you. But That's the thing. You hear people get divorced and then you hear about what happens at the end, but you don't understand that it's years of this coming into fruition. It's not something that it just all of a sudden happened. It's something that you lived through and you were trying to make work. You spend money upon money, like trying to make it work. You're trying to get all these marriage coaches and everything. You tried.
Yeah, we tried everything. And I felt like I was very eager to get those feelings and emotions back.
Yeah.
And nobody gets married to get divorced, you know, and especially growing up in the Mormon religion or any Christian religion, any religion, really, like, divorce is frowned upon. Like, you're sealed for time and all eternity in the Mormon church. And so thinking, like, I mean, I'm still sealed to him for time and all eternity, until something changes. I mean, if it's all true anyway, whatever. But I just thought, like, no, like, we have to make this work. We had kids together. But once I finally started accepting that we were able to do this being separated and being better. And as soon as we separated and the energy in my home was better, my kids noticed a big difference. My kids were getting along better. Yeah. I don't know about you, but a lot of my family had a really hard time with it because we don't talk about it. We put on our game face and we show up and we're happily married, even though you're going through so much trauma. Yeah. It's what you do because you're not divorcing. And then towards the end, I remember starting to finally open up to my family and just being like, I'm losing attraction. Like, can you maybe talk to him? And I started reaching for other people to help validate even what I was feeling. I'm like, I don't know what else to do. And so that's when people started realizing, well, that was only like 6 months before we ended up separated. Yeah. So to everybody else, they're like, holy cow, like,
why did you try harder?
Yeah. Yeah. And a few of my friends did know what I was going through. And, I was able to reach out and be very honest with them. But a lot of people don't know. More people don't know than do know.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that happened to me too, because I felt like if I talked about it, that it would give life to any doubts that I was having. And it was something that I was very adamant about. I didn't want to talk to my friends about any problems we were having. I didn't want to talk to family about it because I didn't want them to think of him in a negative light. I just didn't want it to be real by talking about it. That's a good point, And but then everything happens at the end and you're like, but no, like the whole time there were some problems. I mean, I don't want to say like the whole time we were, having an awful marriage, but it adds up. Like, it's not just at the end. Yeah. And I know that for me and mine, I definitely had lost something. And, I didn't realize what it was until later, really. In my marriage, I know we talk about my membership in the LDS church a lot in the Mormon church. Brittany was also, but you grew up a little bit Catholic also. Yeah. And so it gave you a little bit of perspective, but that was the only thing that I knew. I very much lost my identity. I didn't have my identity was entangled in this, like what I was supposed to be in the church, which was, a mom. And that's what I was supposed to be, the happiest, being mom and wife. And if you're something beyond that, there's something wrong with you. Like if you can't like settle into that role. And, when I finally started figuring out that I don't believe in the Mormon church and I didn't know who I was. Like, I absolutely did not know. And, we had issues along the way. My ex, like, he's a really, really good person, and I would say that a lot of the stuff that happened and, what eventually, the divorce was a lot me. It was me not having a voice, me not having, like, being able to be whoever I was because I didn't even know. And so when I finally like, okay, this isn't true. So that means that my identity that I've created with it isn't real either. And it really created like this trauma response. I really acted out in, I need to figure this shit out. And I am unwilling to go back to playing a role, playing a part, It feels so fucking good to do things with my own intuition and, and figure that out because I don't want people to tell me what to think anymore.
Well, and it's interesting because you think about your testimony, right? And they talk about a testimony in the church often and having your own testimony. Like if any of you have sat through testimony meeting, the last Sunday of every month or the first Sunday of every month, you fast. And then during sacrament meeting, everybody gets up and they're able to just share their testimony of the church. And you have kids going up there. They're like, I believe in the scriptures. I believe in the prophet. And it's very scripted, but they also teach you as you're going through it to study and read and gain your own testimony. But what if you do that and you decide that it's not true?
Then you need to keep praying until you get
the right answer. And you can create the right answer, right? Like,
I mean, it's their answer.
Yeah, exactly. And you can create that. Yeah. But like when you actually truly honor who you are and you start realizing it, and then you're like, wait, what? I did study and I did realize that this is my belief. Tried. Yeah. And that's your belief. That doesn't mean it has to be everybody's belief, but instead of giving grace and allowing you to have that space, people that don't believe that same way, you end up having to not be with them anymore. And sometimes that's your husband. Sometimes that's a friend. Sometimes that's your family members. I know, I have a friend of mine that has a mom that was like, I'd rather you be dying from cancer than leave the church, and people have that belief. And whether you're right or wrong, it's not worth fighting about. It's more about being true to yourself. And as we're talking about finding yourself and having your own testimony in yourself and what you believe in. Yeah. And that's what I love. You know what? We got great things from the church because they taught us to create that within ourselves. It's just how we go about it. And if it goes against it, they want to say maybe that you're wrong or whatnot. But guess what? We can believe what we want, and what we believe is our truth.
Right. And that's how you find yourself. I do wonder like where I would be at if that hadn't happened. I mean, I really believe I would have still been married, but I am so grateful for where I'm at now, just because, I have found myself and I'm the happiest that I've ever been. And it's really sad that had to happen. But, we got married so young. We got married when we were 22, had babies by 25, 4 kids. Like I've talked about how I have had a fucking hard time being a mom and that being my role, because I've been a very motivated person. I love to work. I do love to work. Same. In my marriage, I was always the person that was like trying to do stuff, and like I was building things, and like, I couldn't just ever just settle into just sitting at home, like being home and being mom. And, I really wish I would have had a career, and that's okay. Like, it's okay. That's the life I lived. And now,
what you want.
I am, and I'm here with that. But, in the marriage, you get married so young and you don't know the person. You just don't know them.
But you sure want to have sex with them.
You sure want to have sex.
But you can't until you're married.
Yeah, right. And, like I said, it wasn't all bad. It wasn't, just near the end when, it was about 10 years ago. I remember this instance where like I went through a time where I had chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia. And I mean, when I say that it was, life altering, that's kind of
understatement.
I was in bed for 2 years. I was in bed because I could not get out. I had pushed myself too hard through my Spartan race days, when I was a sponsored athlete. And I couldn't walk around in the block without getting tired. And I'm sure that was fucking hard for him too. But I felt very misunderstood by him, and he, I'm sure, was fucking overwhelmed. And it created this, and I have anxious attachment. He has avoidant attachment. It actually unattached us.
Yeah.
Because I figured out I couldn't depend on him anymore. And that was just, in my head, obviously. But ever since then, it's been hard. It was hard to get it back. And we just kind of just started growing our different ways. I think parenthood was hard on both of us because we weren't stable humans. In a podcast before this, we talked about how, like, I never worked on myself until I was like last year, really, working on myself meant reading the scriptures. It didn't mean like trying to heal my trauma, trying to heal my anxious attachment, trying to heal what happened to me. Like I didn't do that. And I think it would have helped for sure. Both of us, we were not working on ourselves that way.
They kind of tell us like, turn to the scriptures.
Turn to the scriptures. And it doesn't help.
I mean, maybe it helps some people, and that's where the space that they might be at. But to me, it's like, no, you got to turn inward, because we've got generational traumas that we're trying to heal, and things that have come from people in our past and in our lives. And if you don't take that time to work on yourself and realize that that you're more important than any church, anything else going on around you, you have to discover yourself, and you have to teach your kids to do that as well. And as you're parenting, it's the greatest blessing. Like I am so grateful for the 3 children I have, because what's the saying? Other people are praying for what you're complaining about. Like it's very true, and it's not a complaint. It's just you are raising kids. And I remember when I first started raising my kids, it was all about doing parties, but it was with little kids and creating carnivals. And like, I've always been a party girl. That's why LuLaRoe fit into my life so well. But I'm so grateful I found LuLaRoe in having my own career, because through that, they taught me to find myself and do leadership and discover that within me.
Okay. So I kind of want to go back to, so you're figuring out that you're like, this isn't going to work. So what was kind of the final straw for you?
I think the number one thing that I started asking myself was, would I be happier alone or continuing this battle? And that was a question I had constantly. And I would say from November until March, it was hell. So November of 2019 or so, it was just depreciating. There was nothing appreciating in our bank, our love bank, nothing. And yet we were working the hardest we'd ever worked on it. And I started just asking myself, like, would you be happier at being alone? And I realized I'm like, even if I was alone and didn't date or anything, I feel that I would be happier. But the number one question we were asked when we started our couples counseling or coaching, was, you're either in love, you're either in hate, or you're indifferent. And he went into deep explanation of if you're in love and how you feel and what you exemplify and what you want, or you're in hate and you still have these strong emotions and, you're just pissed off at each other all the time. And he said, or you're indifferent and you just don't care anymore. And I looked at the guy right in the eye and I said, I'm absolutely indifferent. And he looked at my husband at the time and he's like, well, I'm in love.
Damn.
So he had each of us in the room alone and he looked at me and he said, if you're indifferent, your marriage is over. And I lost it. That was not the answer I wanted to hear. It was not the path that I wanted to follow. I was like, no, I'm different. I said, I may be indifferent, but I'm different. And we're going to figure this out. I said, you're a coach. And he's like, you're right. He's like, I will do everything I can. I will be in your back pocket. Anytime things go wrong, he's like, you text me and I will call you right away. I will help you guys work through any of your hard times and I will be there. And he was, and it just got to the point towards the end. We'd had about a month and a half of it. And he just said, Brittany, every time you call me and tell me what has actually happened versus the coaching that I have given your ex, your husband at the time, like, it's complete opposite. He makes me believe that he's going to do it and things are going to be better and he like connects with it. But then when I hear from you how it actually played out, it's completely the opposite of what I was expecting and what I thought he was interpreting it. And I thought, you're right. Like, we are literally growing apart more and more and more. And that's what did it. I mean, there was just nothing left. And then starting to be intimate and trying that intimacy and just ending up in the closet crying. I was like, and it was the scariest thing. And I had asked him for a divorce in December of 2019. I remember sitting at the restaurant with our two kids and I just started crying and he just looked at me. He's like, you're done, aren't you? And I was like, I'm done. Like, I feel that we're going to be divorced. And I felt that, but he's like, I'm not giving up. Like, he wanted to work on it because he was in love. And I was like, okay, well, let's work on it then. Let's try, let's keep going. And then we went on a trip, a family vacation, came home. And as we're coming home, it was COVID. So talk about trauma. I mean, we're coming home from Hawaii on spring break with our kids and they're telling us our kids are not going back to school. And I'm like, okay. So we go back and we meet with our coach and I told my coach, like, I'm done. Like, I want a divorce. And he said, are you sure? He went out and told my husband at the time, Brittany wants a divorce. And my husband still was like, to this day, I was like, I can't believe you had him do that. And I said, I had done it for myself. You just didn't believe me. You wouldn't accept it. And so he went home and packed his bags and he left. So I was left that week to figure out computers and schooling. And I was still running a business and he bounced, which needed to happen. I mean, he luckily had somewhere to go. And he did. I mean, on a mushroom journey once processed everything he went through that day. And it was so traumatic. It was so traumatic. And I cried and like hysterically went through what he went through going to his parents' house and just knowing that it was over. But both of us went through trials. I mean, I'm sitting at home figuring this out as a single parent like that. And I've got COVID and my kids, I don't personally have COVID, but COVID's, I can't send my kids to school. I can't go to the gym. I don't have my outlet. So I started relying on my best friend, Brandy. I was like, you got to come over. We got to work out. We created a home gym at my house and we worked out every single morning together and continued. If anybody's done the Baby Wise book, one of the best piece of advice in that book was, as you add a baby to your family, don't change your way of life. That baby gets to come into your life and you continue to live your life. You just get to bring a baby with you and you just keep going. And I felt that way about divorce or any big change. Take your moment, but continue to do the things that make you happy.
Yeah.
And that is what's going to keep you sustainable and keep you on track and consistent and living your best life, even as you're going through that is, in a sense, fake it till you become it. Because as you continue to do that, if you wallow, then you're going to become that wallowing person. If you find your happiness and, take your moments to have your sadness. Yes, of course, you got to honor those feelings and emotions or else you're just going to explode. But,
we record at home and sometimes you can hear the kids.
Hi, boys.
It's fine.
It's fine.
They're 6.
Oh, here they are. But I do feel like as you're going post-divorce is, you're going through a life-changing experience, something extremely traumatic. So you honor that space, yes, but you also have to keep going. And it's just like death, divorce, family situations that might be going on. Find things that make you happy and create those moments. I created moments where I went with my friends and I went to dinner and I went to lunch and I kept asking if they said no. I said, okay, then when can you? Like, I knew I needed it. And I knew that I was bringing nothing to the table when I went out with friends sometimes. Yeah. And I was like, just because I felt like I was this negative ball of nothingness, but I needed somebody to show me that I wasn't, in a sense. Exactly. And I felt inside though that I'm always the giver, right? I'm the nurturer. I'm the giver. Yeah. I'm a leader in my business. I'm a leader in my home. Like I'm always giving. Now I needed to receive and I needed to give space for that. And so I did. And I felt like it helped me tremendously in just being like, okay, I've got this. I'm not alone. And I have to find new friends. Like I had to find new friends in a sense because all of our friends were married. A lot of those married people heard one side of the story. My husband believes I had an affair and I did not have an affair, whether it's true or it's not. But the experience that I went through, that he gave himself this belief and this lie and everybody believed it. I literally found out who my true friends were, and it's, you hate to say that and you hate to like, oh, you'll find out who your friends are. Cause I'm like, everybody's my friend, and you do. And you hope to have the opportunity to talk to these people and allow them, but they also get to have their space in what's going on in your life. But you need to create your safe space within yourself, with yourself and your friends that that you can rely on. And even some of those friends from the beginning that I relied on ended up turning on me months later or just like dropped, literally wouldn't respond to messages, whatever. And I was like, okay, on to the next. It is. So just believe in yourself that you can create what you want to get the results of being more positive and knowing that divorce isn't death. It's the death of the relationship, but it's a new beginning for you.
That is something that's been hard for me too. Like I have lost friend groups. But also like, I'm so grateful for the ones that I have now. And I'm, and you find out who has been there for you, like seriously at the end of mine, you went through a lot of steps with therapists and stuff. I mean, unfortunately we didn't because I knew that at the point where, he didn't want to leave the church. And I needed to find myself. I fucking needed it. Like I needed water. I needed to be able to just make a fucking decision about coffee and alcohol and, just have a free voice.
Clothes, what you're wearing.
Yeah. Oh. There, with the Mormon church, like everything is a rule, everything. Like you're supposed to wear clothes to here. You're not supposed to, drink alcohol and you're not supposed to go dance sexy. I don't know.
The thing is they want you to repent. And that's where I had the hardest thing with the church is repenting. I'm like, but I don't feel bad.
No.
Why do I have to repent if I don't feel bad?
That's the problem. And it was a huge disconnect, And when you find that and you're like, okay, but I've always liked to dance sexy, always have. And I don't feel bad doing it. And when you're like, okay, I'm going to trust myself now, you just can't turn that off. And when he decided that he wanted to stay in, and I couldn't have that conversation with him anymore about all the shit I was finding out, how traumatic it was for me, how hard it was for me, the future, like, where do we go from here? Because I want to explore things that I've never explored. I want to be able to say things that I want to say, you know? And when you can't share that with your spouse, I don't know. I don't know how people survive that. And it, you know, over the course of the next couple of years, we grew further and further apart. And I honestly was just trying to find a way to end it, even though we had all this history. And I'm like, I didn't hate him, you know? He was still a friend. I remember having a conversation with you over coffee.
At the cabin.
Yeah. Or just at River Rock, you know, I'm just like, shit.
That one too.
Brittany, like, I did the same exactly, you know?
Yeah. But we started talking about it up at the cabin. Do you remember that?
Yeah, just unwilling to ever go back to not being able to make decisions for ourselves, you know?
Yeah. And I thought you were just tried and true Mormon. So I felt guilty, like even offering. And then I was at the cabin sitting on the couch. I remember it distinctively. Yeah. And I was like, wait, what? And it opened this dialogue between you and I that I think helped bond us a ton. Yeah. And you're like, wait, how do you navigate this? And I'm glad you opened up about it.
Yeah. And you know, I think there's so many people that are like, oh, you just wanted to sin. No, it's not about sinning. It's about having a fucking choice. I got married so young, like that I feel like I didn't have that choice. And I really get irritated when people are like, you did have a choice. No, I didn't. I did not have all the information. Like I didn't, no full disclosure. Like I was sold this lie. And so I went along with it, you know.
And you wanted to believe that it was true.
I did.
You still do. It's just like your marriage in a sense.
And
when it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah. So when all of that falls apart, no, like it's not informed consent. And that's the biggest part. Like if I would have been able to decide that I believed in it, then I would have. But, you know, when it's very much like manipulated into you, if you want to say it any other way, I did not feel like I had a choice. And I remember seeing this TikTok from this ex-Mormon Faith Unraveled account. That's right. And it was very much like, you know, don't come at us with, why are you so angry? If you are a married Mormon, you typically got married really young. And not knowing their psychological history, their work history, your sexual compatibility. And then if you're a woman, you most likely didn't get a career. And then later on, like you're there and you decide that you're out and then you're stuck. And I just remember bawling after watching this. And I'm like, she just put to words like what I feel. You know, I'm very much stuck in this and I couldn't get my head out of that. And it was very much like that TikTok was very much an instigator of like, okay, I think that I might be done, you know? And it just sucks because, you know, we didn't go through a lot of that therapy because I knew that I was done. I knew that if he was going to choose that path, I couldn't. It felt like he was choosing the abuser. And it's not fair. I don't know if it's fair to say that. It doesn't matter if it's fair. That's how I felt. He was choosing my abuser over me. And I was angry at him, you know? And there was decisions that I made near the end that I'm like, I wish that I would have done it differently for sure, you know? But because I was stuck and like financially just trying to figure out if I could do it on my own, we finally decided to get separated. And the thing was like, I started talking to guys right away because I'm just impatient and I wish I wouldn't have done it that way. And Jim found a phone conversation when he came back to the house at some point and he was devastated. He felt like I was cheating on him and I felt like, oh, we were separated. But like, I understand I hadn't vocalized like how done I was, you know?
Well, it's almost like you do that just to solidify that you're done as well.
Yeah.
I feel like because I had said like, we're going to separate or divorce multiple times, but it's like, there was a part of me that was like, I need to go out and like sleep with someone else so we know what's done or something. And I didn't, but regardless. I did the same thing. I was ready to date because I'd been gone for so long anyway. Everyone's like, oh, it went so fast. No, I have been gone for years. I have been lonely for years. It's not about your timing and what you're seeing with your eyes. It's about me and what I feel.
Yeah.
And that's what's important. And it doesn't matter what anybody else says. You might have to listen, or you might have to say your opinion, thanks, and goodbye.
I mean, we're going back to just people just don't realize. They don't realize you've been, you can get along with them. Like, you can be friends with them. That doesn't mean that you're having like a good marriage, something that's fulfilling for both of you. And, when you talk about going to your meeting, we also finally went to a therapist, and he asked us on a scale of 0 to 10, like, how much do you want to work on this? And I knew that I needed that choice. I needed to be able to pick my own life. And I was at a 0 and he was at a 10, and it just killed me. Because I did love him and care about him, and I didn't want to hurt him like that, But what do you do? I know that people see that happen, and they just don't understand why I did it, because he is a great guy and a lot of people like him. He's a very giving person. And I know that I've been kind of villainized a little bit in all of this, especially from some people in my family. But,
it's because they're not focusing on themselves.
No, yeah. And
they're trying to focus on you because they're not willing to work on themselves.
And I didn't talk about it.
Yeah.
I didn't talk about how hard it was to be an extrovert with an introvert, And it doesn't make either of us right or wrong. It's just how it is. And it's hard to connect with someone when I need that connection. Like
fulfillment. I love that you use that word, fulfillment. I think that's a great, powerful word to put out there right now, is like, where are you getting your fulfillment if it's not in your marriage? Like, are you seeking it in that marriage, or are you seeking it elsewhere? And, if you're seeking it elsewhere and your focus is going there, then you're going to end up going that direction.
Right.
And it's, if you're fulfilled, if you feel that fulfillment in whichever path you see yourself at.
Yeah, no one wants to get divorced. No one gets married with in fact, we were very adamant we're not going to get divorced because both of our parents were. We knew how hard it was on us. I didn't want to do that to my kids, but you get to these points, like you make these prejudgments about, oh, I would never do that. I don't know. Like one of my friends, she ended up leaving her baby in the car by accident, and she passed away, and she got raked over the coals. I'm like, you don't know who she was. Such a good mom. She is a good mom. You just don't know until you're in that situation. Pain. And it's given me a lot of empathy for other people because it's so easy to judge. You don't know.
How long have you guys been divorced?
Just since November.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But separated about a year or so.
No, it wasn't. We got separated till October. So it was, wait, was it really that fast?
I feel like
it was October. Yeah.
Was that when I saw you guys?
December? Is that when it was final? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it was that fast.
And then you
divorce
stayed,
is hard, guys.
Yeah, because you stayed in the house.
No, we were switching back and forth. I was staying with Brittany a lot.
That too.
Yeah,
that's right. And you guys kind of tried to do. It's called nesting.
Oh,
there's a term for it. Yeah, you leave the kids at home, and then the mom and dad come and go.
It was too hard for him. It was too hard to see my stuff. And when you're the person that decided, it's a lot easier for you to move on, and I understand. I understood. So.
Yeah, and you tried though.
We did try.
You guys did.
And we're really good co-parents, I would say. So we have that going for us.
That's great. Well, and there's a book called Consciously Uncoupling, and I think it's fantastic. If anybody's considering that, go read Consciously Uncoupling. And if you can be on the same page, that's your ideal situation. Mm-hmm. It's not easy, but you do your best to create it. I mean, that's the thing, is even with my ex feeling like I had an affair or whatever, it made it very difficult because I didn't even know he thought that for a long time, but he all of a sudden just turned, and it was not conscious, and I wouldn't, and unfortunately he does not want to co-parent with me. He wants to parallel parent, he called it. He's like, we will parallel parent. And I was like, okay, I guess you can, and I'm like, I wish you would take some time to get to know who I am and try to work with me, but you cannot control another person. You can't.
So, all right, you're divorced now. What was your life like right after your divorce?
Lonely. Oh my gosh. I think that's your first initial feeling is loneliness. And like you were saying before, like you started texting and, trying to date really fast, but you're so lonely, but people don't realize you've been lonely for so long.
Yeah.
So it's really, people are like, oh, you started dating so fast. No, actually, I tried to date my husband for a long time and it wasn't going anywhere. So I switched and was ready to try dating somebody else. And I feel like that's more of what it's like. There's no right or wrong answer. I would ask advice. I hired a coach. I hired a coach. I reached out to my sister who'd been divorced. I talked to a lot of people just to try to navigate, but no matter what, it came down to taking everybody's thoughts, opinions, advice, and creating and developing what worked for me. Like we talked before, is I still had to have my individual self with or without my kids. So I had to continue to go to the gym. It always made me happy. So I never stopped going to the gym. I had to create a gym at my house at first and continue that because COVID, it had shut everything down. And there was a lot of loneliness. I think the whole country was feeling lonely. Yeah. Especially with COVID. And I'm like, well, now how am I going to date? How's this going to happen? And ironically, I'd met someone prior to my I'd met somebody before COVID hit at the gym, and I connected with him on Facebook, and then he asked, hey, it sucks the gyms are closed. So I told him, hey, come to my house, we'll work out, or he'd invite me to go start doing stuff. So I feel like after my divorce or separation, I just became a yes girl, is what I would say.
I love that.
What happened is, and I've always been a yes girl. I'm the type of person where I'll let you down, if anything, because unfortunately I'll double book myself or something happens like that. And I hate it, but I always am like, yep, I'll figure it out. I'll make it work. With parties, with everything in my business, like someone would be like, hey, I want to host a party this time. I'm like, I have kids. My husband works 45 minutes away, 12-hour shifts. How am I going to figure this out? And I'd be like, yes. And then I'd figure it out afterwards. Oh
my gosh, I'm the same way. That's funny.
It's like, I say yes first all the time. Cause I'm like, okay. Well, then it became, hey, do you want to go ride e-boards on the Las Vegas Strip because it's closed down? And I'm like,
oh, yes, fun.
What does that even mean? What's an e-board? And it's an electric skateboard. And these two guys that I had met invited me to go down there. And I met another gal came with us, and we had a freaking blast. I mean, the Las Vegas Strip was shut down. We're riding e-boards down there, just going in and out of the roads, dancing on the Bellagio fountain. It was amazing. And then I was like, oh, do you want to go rock climbing? Do you want to go rappelling? And I was like, yes. And I mean, I had gone rock climbing with you one time before, but I didn't realize how much I loved it.
It's so fun.
It changed my life, being a yes girl, because I started trying and experiencing things that I didn't do in my marriage because I didn't have the opportunities. I didn't know, the more people the more the more you grow. And I was sticking to my triathlon friends or just working out friends, but getting into the climbing community, and that changed my life. And I always think that I'm like, what else is out there that I haven't tried yet that someone's going to invite me to do that I'm going to love? It's like I moved into a house that had a pickleball court and love pickleball. We just played last night. What else? Kayaking, backpacking, just being a yes girl. I'd be invited to do things and I just said yes. And I was hanging out with somebody that was continuously doing adventurous, outdoorsy stuff. And everyone's like, oh my gosh, this is you, Brittany. Mm-hmm. This is you. You're thriving. And I might be a little dead or figuring myself out inside or feeling so lost. I know, a little dead inside. But I'm actually, part of me is thriving and growing, and I'm finding who I am. And I get to go on different dates with different guys and have different experiences and choose for myself what I do and don't want to do. And I have had opportunities, physically, sexually, emotionally, different things that I've experienced in the last 2 years that prior I would have been so judgmental of.
Yeah.
So judgmental of. Mushroom experiences. I was like, that's a drug. It's horrible. No, it's actually the most therapeutic thing you could do. And it's very controlled because of reasons I'm not even going to get into, because that's going to just create things. But when I started learning about myself and through mushroom journeys and releasing so much trauma that had built up in me I didn't realize was there. I mean, I've processed my ex-father-in-law, I've processed my ex-husband, I've processed my dad and his relationship with his mom, which is now helping me have a better relationship with my son. I processed my son. And the fact of him, I mean, he still tells me every time that I have him, at least once or twice, he'll say, why can't you just be married to dad? Why can't dad just live here? And, and I went through and had a moment where I felt his heart. I mean, it literally rips, tears, almost like just going back and forth, but it helped me understand and be more sympathetic towards him and relieve I feel like through me, I was able to relieve some of his tension, and our relationship's gotten better, and things that I just never imagined because I was so closed off to all those things. And now I'm open and I'm like, okay, I'm going to try and do everything legally as best I can. And I'm going to decide if I do or don't like it by experience instead of what I'm being taught and told. And I had the chance to do that without anybody telling me I was wrong, anybody telling me anything. And even if they tried to, I was so passionate in what I was doing that if somebody started to maybe bring up the negative side of it, I would be like, oh my gosh, but you'll never believe this. I had this experience. And literally that negativity or that judgment would dissipate so fast when they saw my passion for it. And that's what I love. Like, I was more true to myself than I'd ever been before. But I feel like I was, like, as Brittany show, I was true to myself during that period of my life. And then as Brittany Hunter, I was very true to myself at that period of my life. And I honor that. And I was doing the best I could, given the knowledge that I had. And that's what I'm doing now in my life. And I kind of took myself to be like, okay, I have no knowledge in life. I'm going to find my knowledge. I'm going to find who I am, and I'm going to do all the things and figure it out. And I have had some of crazy experiences. I've had some incredible experiences, but the best part of all of it is the connections that I've made with myself, with other humans, with activities that I love, and narrowing down things I don't like, things I do like. Yeah. And now I get to share my passion of what I do like through my experience of doing it instead of just, well, I hear, or like I watched the Goop Lab on Netflix, and, Gwyneth Paltrow's incredible talking about sex and drugs and Wim Hof and so many different things that people experience. And I'm like, I love that. I want to experience that so I can do the same.
And I think you're a really good example of why a lot of women thrive after divorce, because you are able to find yourself a little bit more, without having to be something in a marriage. And I'm not talking down a marriage at all, for sure. No, but just studies show that a lot of women are happier after a divorce,
It's interesting because I have another friend that's been happily married for years and years, and she grows and her husband goes with her, and then he grows and she goes with him, and then they try things together. And so they're actually growing together. Yeah. Which is beautiful. That's what everybody wants. And so I love that for her. And I think it's incredible and amazing. She's doing the same things I'm doing now, but she gets to do them within her marriage. And I'm so happy for that as well.
Yeah. And you've been a really good example for me personally. And again, Brittany was really there for me, when I was falling apart. And I had this other group of friends too there's just been some people that have just stuck by me and were just fucking amazing. I can't say anything else because I didn't always make the best decisions. I remember going over my friend Amber's house, and when Jim had found that text message and I was falling apart, and I'm sure she was like, well, I mean, maybe that wasn't the best decision, Ty, but she didn't say anything like that. And she just comforted me through the whole thing. And, I will never be able to express my gratitude enough for people that did that for me.
And I think that's a great thing to talk about, is how to give and receive advice while you're going through divorce, or while you're helping someone through a divorce, is just to sit and listen. And if you want to give your opinion, say, do you mind if I offer you my opinion? Don't just give it. Yeah. Because some people are just like, there's a lot of times I'm like, I just need to be held and heard. Just held and heard, and so I've had that, a couple times where someone's like, well, do you want me to give you my opinion? I'm like, no, I'm actually okay. I don't need that right now. Or if I'm seeking it, then I'm like, yeah, I'd love to know your opinion. But don't just give people your opinion because you want to. And it's hard for me because I'm an opinion giver and I'm a talker. So I try to remember that myself.
Right.
But it's very true. Like you just need to be held and heard by the people that love you. And if you want to, ask for it. And if you don't, hold your boundaries and say, I'm actually not looking for advice right now, just to be held and heard. I feel like when I joined LuLaRoe, having my own business, my own thing, I remember talking to some people, and I mean, you start meeting more people and talking to them about what's going on. So you get advice from other people. And they said, one of the greatest things you can do is have something for yourself, because if you need to stand up for yourself at any point in time, you have something to fall back on.
Yeah.
And that's going to help, in a sense, empower women to be able to own themselves and do exactly what they need to progress in life.
And I think that's super important, because how many women do you know right now that have been fucked over by this system, by not having a career and not having something, and then they're divorced and like, shit, I have to, if you have the kids 50-50, like you have to support yourself completely, That's just something I'm very, I'm a little salty by.
Well, but in all honesty, you have the choice. We all have a choice. Like how many people do we know that are in the same situation? Like I know Danelle Delgado, she is in the same exact position, but she's a multimillionaire who's helping women all over the world do coaches. Like anything's possible. And that's what I love about this universe and this world, is that if somebody's done it, it's possible. It's just sometimes harder for others and not for others, but having that to fall back on is one of the greatest blessings I feel like any person can have for themselves. Well, and you have your, it's being somebody that is willing to be open, honest, upfront, and share, and people will follow you. And it creates such a community. And then look at the opportunities that we get to make doing this now, which is amazing.
I know. I love it so much.
Yes.
Right. Because I wouldn't be here. I would not be in this spot. I would not be as happy as I am, if I hadn't gone through all the steps. So like,
we're still finding ourselves.
We still are.
I mean, and it's a constant thing that we continue to do. Yeah. And what you put out comes in, right? So it's like, I listen to podcasts like this that can help me get through, or, other people that inspire me and are living a life that I want to live, and just try to manifest that and make the best of it as we're finding ourselves in this new environment and new identity. We're creating it, and we're creating it on our own. So there's nobody else to blame but us, which is kind of scary.
I know, right?
I like it though. I still love it.
It is. And we in our last podcast, we talked about overwhelm too, how it, for single moms, especially, how when you're in that state, it's so hard to create anything. So when you talk about people that have made it and they're single moms, I praise them extra because I'm like, I know how hard it is, because there's a reason that the top billionaires in the world, all the people that are, at the top, they're all married. They have support at home, because you have that security. So, we're doing it too. We're doing it.
Well, and there's a group of, like I said, Danelle, I mean, she went through, you have to listen to her stuff sometimes. She went through cancer twice as a single mom, with 3 kids.
My hell.
Or 2 kids. Yeah. And she was our same age. And, they're like, that's so having somebody, it inspires me. And just to realize, there is some sacrifice and stuff. But for her, she's like, I work when I don't have my kids. So some people, that's a blessing. It's like, well, if you have your kids 50-50, when you don't have your kids, you just go balls to the wall and work your business. Yeah. But is it sustainable? Everybody told me when I got divorced too, like, do not date while you have your kids, and I'm like, wait, what? So I have to be this person with my kids and this person when I don't have my kids, and like go all out. And people are trying to give me this advice. And I would do it for a little while, but it didn't work for me. So what ended up working for me was being consistent.
And I love feel like that. And I've totally taken that advice too. And it's helped me be more, more in it. Cause especially during the summer when we have our kids every second of the day, without help for that week. And then the next week you don't have them at all. It's just this weird imbalance. Yeah.
But you can find balance in it. Yeah. Right? And that's where I feel like when I was being told to do that, I was like, well, that's your opinion, because a lot of people have not been through what we've been through. And I understand that. But what works for me and my kids is my kids, they like to play on their devices. When they're playing I don't watch TV. I struggle with, decompressing. So how I decompress is going to the climbing gym. So I would say, okay, you guys have an hour to play on your devices. And I would go to the climbing gym for an hour. And it was awesome. Even though they've been at school all day, whatever, like we'd come back together and then have some time together. And then, I feel as if it's created great balance between me and my kids. And they're more independent. I still get to be my independent self. And they can entertain themselves and and grow that, because that's how it is in life.
Yeah. And that's not, I don't hear that very often. I
don't
really
think you do, yeah.
No, because most of the moms that I know that are 50-50 are like, I want to be every second with my kids because I miss them. Yeah. I mean, I know, but then it's hard. Like, how do you create habits? How do you take care of yourself on the week that they're there? Like, you're just completely lost in taking care of them again. And you're both imbalanced. Both of you are.
Especially if kids are in sports.
Yeah.
It's like you're running them to practice every day. Like you're going. And then those weeks, I'm not going to lie. Last week, I was like, I didn't have my kids for a week and it was summer break. And there were several hours throughout the day that I just felt helpless and useless and passionless. And I was like, I need my kids. I need my kids to fulfill that, So you go through those emotions, but the best thing I ever did was get out and go, set up coffee dates or reach out to people and try to, I'm an extrovert. So I really love throwing parties, or I really love like creating community. And so I did. And that's when I was, especially first divorced or separated, I would set up coffee dates constantly because I needed that stimulation. I needed that energy. I needed somebody else, especially working from home. I'm home all day, every day. And I loved learning that if it's something I want, I can create it.
Yeah.
If I feel lonely, then go find somebody. Everybody has a friend. Everybody has somebody that's just picking up that phone and being okay with rejection. If somebody's like, oh, I'm busy, and not taking it personal and just being like, okay, go to the next person. It's just like the waitress, scenario where, they come back and ask you if you need a drink, a refill. They don't stop asking and they don't take it as if it's rejection. If you say no, and that's how it was for me. I was like, well, I'm always the one inviting everybody else, but you know what? Those people need me just like I need them. So why even worry about who's inviting who, but create those moments, create that connection, because that's what helped me get through that, those first several months of being separated is, and getting together, not talking negatively and trying to, twist, but venting here and there. But that helped me substantially. I would say, post-divorce was creating connection with people.
You're so good at it too. You're like the poster child.
I don't give up.
And I definitely personally appreciated it like more than you will ever know.
Thanks.
Seriously.
Oh, I ditto.
It helped me get through.
Ditto.
Yeah.
Yeah. Getting out and dancing and doing things that we love, and just, we might be hanging out with a bunch of college kids, but we can out dance them.
The secret is we're older and we don't care.
And we don't care. And that's more attractive than anything is when you actually do it. So it's fun.
Throughout, you talk about how lonely you were afterwards. I mean, I'm still in that sometimes, like when my kids aren't here, and I don't like sleeping by myself. I don't like being here at night by myself. And that's definitely something that's been very, very new. And I think that's why I'm always like I'm trying to get out there and do things and meet people and just be a yes girl. I think that I've kind of followed your example in that way, just trying to open my mind to different things and to, just try all the things. And I want to make my own opinion up about all of this. But definitely, right after divorce, it's been, like really amazing and also, really, really hard just trying to find who I am. And we talk about mushrooms a lot on this podcast, but it really has been like one of the most instrumental things in helping me figure out like who I am inside and being able to help heal those traumas. But the more that I've done it, the more on the outside that I've been happier, like, cause it lasts, right? It lasts. It changes something in your head. And I have just become somebody that I'm pretty like secure with that person, which is a very weird feeling for me who hasn't been that person my whole life, and just in general, like going through my day, like, wow, I'm really happy, even though life is hard right now. Life is really hard. And
like you said, you're secure and lonely at the same time. And you can be both.
And lonely.
You can be both.
That's me.
Right? You can be secure and lonely. And guess what? A lot of people in their marriages are extremely lonely.
Yeah. It's true. I was lonely in my marriage. We both were.
Yeah.
We both were lonely in our marriages. You know, I think that's why, like, I talk to a lot of guys and I date a lot because I love the process of, you know, finding new people and just talking. And so, yeah.
Well, that's one of someone did a podcast once on dating. They're like, you should be talking to 10 people at all times.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah. And you should be at least going out on 4 dates or like meeting up with 4 of them. Like, do your best to really like date hard.
Yeah.
Don't just, you know, get with the first person.
Get with the first person.
I'm one to talk.
Well, I'm following that.
Yeah, so I think what you're doing is great.
Yeah. But I've loved that. I've loved connecting with men in that way now, you know, because it's helping me find me. And I've met a couple that are like really good communicators, and we're going to talk more about that in our dating episode. But anyway, I'm really happy that we got to talk about this today. Divorce is hard, and there's so many elements to it that I know people are really feeling alone in. So if you guys are watching on YouTube, make sure you comment down below. Tell us about like what you're going through. We really want to hear it. And in this podcast, we have a way that you can donate. So you can find that in the description. And we are just really happy to have you here. Just make sure you have subscribed here. And we'll see you in the next one. And thanks for coming, Brittany.
Thanks for having me.
Yes. Bye. Okay.